two, one, and we're live. Good evening, Facebook land. Here is Cherie Daria1 with another version of Courageous Conversations with Cherie, and we are hailing you this fabulous Friday evening. It's an amazing show tonight, and I'm excited because I am speaking to my future. You're going to find out exactly what I mean by that in just a few minutes, but here on Courageous Conversations with Cherie, we get to the heart of the matter. We share our stories, unapologetic, unashamed, just bold and courageously. And tonight, we are going to share a little bit about who we are. You're going to hear a little bit about who he is, but then you're going to also hear about small business. We're talking about online marketing and small business tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest for tonight, Paul Easton, all the way from New Zealand. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hi, Cherie. I'm great. You're talking to the future. That's right. It's Saturday morning here, sunny, about 11 o'clock in Tauranga, New Zealand.
Oh, fabulous. You know, I'm super excited about that. I think my future looks much brighter than it is right now. In fact, I'm speaking it into existence. I am so super excited about my tomorrow. And it's like right now it's already happened. So I'm going to come back to that on a future broadcast. But this here is pretty divine, Paul. You just don't know. I'm expecting some amazing things to happen before tonight is over. And so tomorrow is just where I want to be. So this is perfect. But why don't you introduce yourself to our guest tonight? Who is Paul Easton?
So Paul Easton. So I'm born and bred in New Zealand. I have travelled around the world a little bit, but what my background is, I grew up in a small town, and I sort of did something that a lot of people do, is actually join the military, and then I spent 20 years actually in the military. And just near the end of that, I was looking for something different, something I could expand my horizons, and I started learning about online marketing, and that's what I started digging into. I know, and it still amazes me today how you can send an email from one side of the world to the other, and like us now, we're chatting from one side of the world to the other. It's amazing, the reach. I think there's massive things you can do with it. I think understanding it is it's fantastic what is available really there and how you can use it.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. You're absolutely right. You're in New Zealand. You're in a whole nother day, not just the other side of the world. It's amazing how technology connects us sooner, quicker, and faster. But tell me and help our audience understand, what is the actual meaning of online marketing?
Oh, that's a big thing. It's really having an online presence which works together with your business. I think a lot of small businesses tend to put this online stuff separate, which really you can integrate it into your business. And the best way I can say this is to give an example. Now, I was talking to a small garage builder who happened to have a video on his website. And I said, he goes to a lot of networking events. And I said to him, how do you integrate your website and your marketing into, the networking events? He said, I just pass over my business card and that's about it. And I said, how about you try this next time? When you pass over your business card, you say, hey, here's my business card. Have a look at our website. We've got this great little video on our website that shows people what we do and how we do it. So I like, small businesses in that they're great at what they do at their business, but the marketing side sometimes makes it harder for them. So if you can integrate that online and offline touch points and make them work together. It's also about even if you've got a website or you're looking to get a website, before you even go down that path, is work out what the purpose of the site is. What do you want people to do on it? What direction do you want them to go? And have that purpose in mind when you're dealing with a web designer or a marketer. Because if you go to a web design company, they're going to give you what they think you want. And unless you know what you want, you'll get what they think is pretty and whatever's what makes them look good. If you go to a marketing company, they're going to want to sell you marketing. So the point before you get started, know what you want walking in. And that means you need to decide what your website is to do with you and how it's going to fit your business and help you move forward.
So Paul, let's just talk to the startup business owner, small business owner, who's just now getting started. I think most small businesses immediately think, when they're thinking about marketing, that they need a business card and they need a website. And part of that also includes a logo. But the logo and the brand are totally different, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So I read something just the other day that said that the brand is basically your reputation. It's what does someone think about you when they hear your business name?
Yep, and the same thing when they arrive on your website is that instant impression. Some small startups take the impression of get their mother's, uncle's, son's, brother's
To make it.
cousin to make it. And what happens is the impression when you arrive on their website is either one of two things. It's, ooh, yuck, I don't know whether I even trust this, or this is a professional company, which I'll look into a bit more. So that's where that branding side of it, which is not my key area, but that instant impression builds that trust straight away before they're going to do anything else, regardless of what the website is.
Right, right. So what would you say to someone who's now just getting started? How important is it to have that initial impression, or why is that important?
It's trust. It really is trust. Someone's going to ask you what's your website address as soon as they find out, to make sure you're a real business, that they've just met you. Are you a real business? And that trust factor is, if I don't trust your website, I'm not going to take any other step. I'm not going to contact you. I'm not going to take any other step because I don't know whether I can trust you with my business or whatever you do. So that's the key aspect of branding and that side of it. And I know there are several stories of websites which have started off on a low end and they haven't been performing. And then when the website was redesigned to slightly more high end, you don't need to go to the top end, but you need to be that slightly more professional. Then they had leads coming in the door. So that's definitely something worth looking at and putting in place as you get started. I'm not saying you need to spend a fortune with a website. I think a startup needs the bare minimum. They're still finding their way around, but at least it's obvious what the website is there to do. If it's there for contacts, make it easy to contact you. Don't make it too hard. Don't make people jump through hoops to try and get hold of you. Just try and keep the KISS principle and be professional.
I think initially, and you can correct me certainly if I'm wrong because I'm not the expert in this area, but I think for many of us that have websites, initially it's that point of contact. I agree that it is that first impression that makes a difference. But I think when we're building our customer base, it's not just the traffic we're trying to generate, but we're trying to convert that traffic into sales if we have a product. So what can you speak to from that perspective?
I think going straight to a sale is great, but it's also the conversion rate on a website, on a good website we've built trust up, is less than 3%. So you need to build something into your website that allows someone to get to know you and get to know a little bit about you before they're willing to open their wallet quite most of the time. And that's where people think they go too fast to trying making a sale. They need to build that trust up better. And the way I do it is I have my own domain, pauleaston.com, and online marketing traditionally is very pushy and very hard. All I do is answer questions. I get on a video and I answer people's questions with no agenda. Basically, there's that way. As someone else, another marketing person says, you would never ask a question of someone that you didn't trust the answer. So that's my process as I get up there and answer questions. I think you've got to have that leap into it, and in building up that interested leads in what you do and making that relationship is probably the best thing for it. I think agree. Some people forget that there is a brand, yes, but there's always a person behind that brand. And that communication has to be there. And a classic example is emails. Is if someone contacts you through your website and it takes 24 to 48 hours to get an answer, then as each hour goes on, that lack of trust is building up because they go, I'm expecting an instant answer. So if I get one little piece of knowledge, is be quick to answer questions as much as possible. And if that means you set an hour a morning going, okay, I answer inquiries in this hour and I get back. Because That's really going to impress people if you get a fast answer.
Absolutely. I agree. Building that trust is, we're talking about building relationships first with your ideal targeted audience, your customer base, before you try to sell them anything. That is so important. My background is in banking. So, of course, I was in a very salesy environment, and it was all sales, 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 because we had quotas, quotas, quotas. But that's not the most ideal way of building a relationship. No one wants to just be sold to. They want to know, of course, that people do business with people they like and they trust. And in order to build that, it's like with any relationship, you need to spend time, quality time, but then also you need to show some value. Earlier, Paul, you spoke about having some type of video of some sort that can offer them that value without a price tag associated to it. And I think that's a great example of how to do that. How did you actually get started in marketing online?
So I went down the path of, I was leaving the military and I wanted to do something interesting, different online. I didn't want to travel anymore. With the military, you're away somewhere for a month and you're back again and you're away all over the place. So I also wanted to do something which expanded internationally. So actually, I didn't have any technical skills. You don't have to be technical, definitely not in this age anymore, to do it. So I picked a small niche market that I could then go into, and literally I learned everything by doing. So I went into, always have to say that more than once, the dog clothing market, so the clothing for dogs market.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, okay, so I built a website around dog clothing. I didn't know how to do that, so I bought the software to get it up and running. And then I needed to learn how to make it rank in Google. So again, I didn't have the answers, so I bought a set of CDs as it was then, and I bought the CDs and I deep dive into them as much as possible, doing as much action as possible. And I had it set up so that the order was taken online, the money went to my bank account in New Zealand, and then actually the product order went straight to a warehouse which filled it from the US market. So I was all set up for that, so I could focus purely on the marketing. And I really started learning about what people wanted. I had people coming at me saying, do you have extra large dog clothes? I went, oh, okay, that wasn't what I thought. It was for people that I found out later that they had large, expensive dogs, and they wanted to keep them warm and healthy, so it didn't save. So it saved on vet bills. So I learned a lot about their market. I learned it all by doing so. Then I learned down the marketing side. I learned how to rank the website in Google, but then it came down to conversion numbers and getting people to interact with the site. So one little test that I run, because I started building a database where people had to actually log in and put their email address in before they visited the site, and they got a discount on doing that. So instead of using that list, the way I used it was I wrote a little digital book about what was on the labels that are on pet food containers that are in the supermarket, because a lot of the terms aren't explained. You need to know what your pet is eating. So I wrote that up. It was about a 10-page document. And I emailed out to these people. I did it as a PDF, so it made it nice and simple. I says, look, I've just produced this. I could sell it as a document because it explains what's on the actual dog food. But instead, what I'd rather do is I'd rather give it to you, and in that, I'd like you to, if in exchange for that, I'd like three answers to 3 questions. Was one, stops you buying online? What stops you buying online? What else have you bought online? And I think it was one other. What items have you bought online recently? And I said, all you need to do is hit reply to this email and I'll send it to you. I sent that out at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 10:30, I had 40 or 50 replies. And it was just very simple. All they had to do was reply, and now I knew what else they were buying. Real market research, and I gave it this piece of information which could have been sold. Sometimes in online marketing, when you go to digital